There's a werewolf hunter who's been through hell. She's been tortured. She's exhausted. And she's on the brink of breaking. But then, her so-called mate, Ryder, shows up. HES supposed to be on her side, but HES acting cold and distant. She doesn't know who to trust anymore. And now, they're both trapped, waiting for a decision from a mysterious figure. It's a story of broken trust, conflicting loyalties, and the struggle to survive. You won't want to miss a single second of it. Chapter 22. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension as I watched Keiko, her eyes burning with an intensity that made my blood run cold. There would be no mercy, no reprieve from her wrath. Ajax's presence, which I had foolishly hoped might soften her resolve, seemed to have the opposite effect. His silent support only fueled her determination, a reminder of how close she had come to losing him in the failed assassination attempt. and S warning reverberated through my mind, a haunting echo of my monumental failure. Eliminate both routes, he had said, his voice now a ghostly whisper in my memories. I had not only failed to heed his advice, but had managed to incur their full vengeance by threatening their daughter. The weight of my actions pressed down on me, suffocating in its intensity. I watched as Keiko rose from her makeshift seat in the corner, her movements deliberate and controlled. She had been hunched over a cell phone, her fingers flying across the screen with purpose. Now, as she straightened, her face was a mask of cold fury, a stark contrast to the warm glow of the device in her hand. "What do you think?" she asked Noah, thrusting the phone towards him. I held my breath, dreading whatever plan she had concocted. Noah's usually stoic expression faltered as he looked at the screen. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "My thoughts exactly," Keiko replied, a hint of satisfaction coloring her tone. The anticipation in her voice sent a chill down my spine. I felt my heart constrict as I observed Noah's reaction. His brow furrowed, head shaking almost imperceptibly. It was a subtle response, but far more than he had shown when Keiko had suggested pulling off my fingernails. "Are you sure about this?" he ventured cautiously, his voice with hesitation. "It seems a little extreme." Keiko's eyes flashed dangerously. "What would you do if someone shot your mate? What would you do if she had been successful and she managed to kill Ajax?" she challenged, her words dripping with venom. That was all it took to steel Noah's resolve. "You'll get some rope," he said, his hesitation evaporating. I should have been frantically searching for an escape route or at least something sharp to defend myself if I ever managed to break free from my bindings. Instead, I found myself staring down at my left hand, where two little stumps no longer had nails. It was a surreal sight, the blood and empty nail beds a stark reminder of the torture it endured. My body, however, wouldn't let me forget the agony inflicted upon it. The pulsing pain still coursed deep through those fingers, sharp and brutal, a constant reminder of my failed mission and the consequences that awaited me. Muddy pink runners approached me, prompting me to lift my head slowly. The queen stood before me. I could have sworn I watched pity flit across her features, but it came and went so quickly that I couldn't truly believe it had ever been there. "This is your last chance," she said, soft it was almost a murmur. "You can just tell me the truth right now and we can end all of this. That's all it would take." Just some simple words leaving my mouth. And Dawn ordered me too. There is a whole team of us. They are going to be untraceable once they realize I'm gone. I joined them because of what you fuckers did to my parents and to thousands of other innocent humans. I could have said any of those things and she would have killed me quickly and painlessly. It could all just end right now. Instead, I spat at her. A glob of my spit struck her cheek and I watched her eyes go wide. Then, very quickly, she became calm again. "String her up, Noah." And so, I was strung. A thick rope was looped over a low-hanging rafter of the shed and I was secured to that rope. At first, I didn't really understand what their angle was. Sure, my legs were a little tired from running and squat in that tree. Sure, The way they pulled my arms behind my back and tied them with the rope was a little uncomfortable, but it was nothing compared to getting my fingernails ripped off. I almost felt like laughing in their faces, even as they hobbled my legs together. This was it. This is what they thought was going to break me. Did they not realize what I had been through just to get here? I thought this was child's play. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, Keiko said, meeting my eyes with a knowing smile. And while you're out here, you can comfort yourself with knowing that I'm going to be in my own home, relaxing, with my mate who is still very much alive thanks to you having the worst tame I have ever seen. The queen left without much fanfare. Her henchman cast me one glance before he shut off the single light in the shed and shut the door. Darkness enveloped me as a howl rang out. It took some time for me to fully grasp what was done to me. For a while, I only felt relief. I was alone, and no more pain was being inflicted upon me at this point. It felt like a mercy. Then time started to get a little sticky. Had I been alone for minutes or hours now? I listened to the sound of my breathing in the dark, trying to control the rise and fall of my chest just like Milo had taught me. And as I strained my ears to listen to my breathing, I heard a small scratch, or maybe it was a squeak. My shoulders jerked tight again. Was it a mouse? I couldn't see a single thing. If it was a small critter and it just decided to crawl up my pant leg, I stomped both of my feet as hard as the hobble would allow as a deterrent. But without my eyes, it felt like my ears were working overtime. What was that noise? It sounded small. Was something getting closer to me? Maybe it was a mouse. Maybe it was a spider. Or maybe it was one of the werewolves. Just beyond the door. A werewolf could be circling the shed right now, waiting for me to do something rash. And God, right now, I did want to do something crazy. I felt like screaming and thrashing because my mind was now certain that bugs were crawling all over my skin and mice had ventured up my legs beneath my clothes. Breathing. I knew because the mind was a powerful thing and it could convince anyone of anything. I sucked in a hard, long breath, making sure that every centimeter of my lungs was full. Then I held my breath and counted to 10. Then a slow, steady exhale until I felt entirely deflated. I was okay. I was alive. Nothing was happening to me right this moment. But they had been so close. And so many of them. For so long. Was it possible that Wolf, Drain had already taken my mind? It happened so slowly with my parents. But I had literally been surrounded by werewolves hours. I mean, they could be around me right now. Just outside the shed. Could I get Wolf, Drain through walls? Was that even possible? And if I was already dealing with Wolf, Drain, was any of this even real? Maybe I was already like my parents. I could be getting pushed around in a wheelchair right now with spittle on my chin. I could be alive and well in my body, but my mind could be trapped within itself, replaying this day. Who knew how many times I already lived through this? I was spiraling. I could feel it in my belly, hear it in my thoughts. I was falling apart at the very seams. What a clever queen Keiko was, leaving me trapped and in the dark, knowing that I could tear myself into little shreds and she wouldn't even have to lift a single finger. I was just tired. I was exhausted in my bones, and the darkness and the threat of tomorrow were messing with my mind. But I would be okay. I had been awake for over 20 hours at this point, and I just needed my rest. I focused on my breathing again. I didn't allow mine to stray for a single second. In and out, feeling my lungs expanding and compressing. The swirling in my mind was easing. Each breath came a little smoother. My eyes fluttered shut. My knees softened as my body tried to lower me to the ground. I just needed a little bit of sleep and I could form a proper plan in the morning. The rope binding my arms together jerked tight as my body slumped. My shoulders and tendons screamed at the awkward angle. My body jerked upright, my eyes flying open. I could not sleep standing up and I couldn't function without resting. It would seem that I had underestimated the Queen of Werewolves greatly. This was going to be the longest night of my life, and it started with me letting out a manic laugh that would have chased even the toughest werewolf away. Chapter 23. Swing. Step. Step. Swing. It was repetition that got me through the night. Or was it day now? There were no windows in the shed. It could have been midnight or daylight. Or the sun could have fallen from the sky and I wouldn't have known any better. And a part of me was comforted with the fact that, for now, the world only consisted of me and this tiny shed. So I just shuffled right until my arms ached from the pressure. Then I turned my feet to the left and moved back to where I was. I found out that if I focused on the subtle movements of my feet, I didn't think about other things, like the violence of my stomach and how long ago I had eaten. Like wolf, drain which had either already taken effect or was going to be doing so shortly. Like the fact that I had to very angry werewolf royals that were going to do anything to get even a lick out of information from me. Like wondering if dehydration would take me first or something else. Between my stomach, my throbbing fingers, my quivering eyelids, and the anxiety gripping me, I doubted it would take very long at all now. Or maybe they had already cracked the phone. Maybe they didn't even need me at all anymore and I would be left here to rot. Forgotten. I realized I had stopped my shuffling, and because of that, paranoia had come ripping for me. Step, step, swing. My legs faltered a little bit. The exhaustion was back. I adjusted my routine, adding an additional step. The strain on my arms and shoulders was instant. I gritted my teeth, letting my body lean into it a little more because, at this point, pain was the only thing keeping me awake. I barely slept a wink the night before I left and I spent the entire day up in that tree. I must have been hitting the 36-hour mark now, if not farther. How long could the human body last without sleep anyway? And this was how bad I felt already. What was coming for me? I shuffled to the other side and leaned hard there until my mind was filled with nothing but the sensation of pain rippling through me. For a moment, I couldn't distinguish if the groan came from my mouth or somewhere else, until I was blinded by light spilling into the shed. I instantly recoiled, jamming my eyes shut until I heard the door just again and the buzz of the single light bulb. When my eyes parted again, I was grateful for the soft yellow lighting, but not so grateful for the woman before me or the manter. Keiko sat perched on her beloved paint can, her painted fingernails gently tearing apart some flaky pastry. "Good afternoon. Sleep well?" she asked, popping some of that buttery goodness in her mouth. When I said nothing, she twisted her shoulders to the man who followed her like a shadow. "She's still not feeling talkative today. Noah, do you think we should give her a snack? Maybe perk her up a little bit. Is she even worthy of your chef's cooking?" Noah asked. Keiko pretended to ponder this, tapping a perfectly manicured nail against her chin. "No, I suppose not." "Oh well, just leave it here for the mice," she said. Then, she tossed the beautiful strudel behind her. I couldn't control my reaction. I felt like a dog chasing a tennis ball. She threw the delicacy into a dark corner and my whole body lurched after it, heaving forward. My stomach was no longer growling. It was snarling knowing that food was so close. I didn't even care about the ache in my arms and shoulders as I strained hard against the ropes, wishing beyond hope that they would just break and release me. Noah lunged in front of Keiko the instant I moved, and with my body all twisted and weak, I still found it in myself to grin at the way he stood in front of her. He was like a goddamn pit bull. "Down, boy," I taunted, but my tongue darted out to lick my dry lips. What could a little human like me do anyway? Too much. Noah snapped back. I let out a laugh that was supposed to be sarcastic, but it came out of my mouth a little manic. I was losing it. I didn't know if it was the hunger, the exhaustion, or wolf drain, but something was sucking the sanity out of me. Finally, I slumped back, taking the strain off my shoulders. "Are you sure you don't just want to kill her? We could take her out back. There would be no mess to clean up afterwards. Come on, Noah. If anyone wants her dead, it's me. Unfortunately, I still think she's keeping secrets and I want them more than I want her dead. I don't know how valuable any information she could give us now would be. I think she's slipping. She could lie to us just to get out of it at this point. Maybe we didn't make the right judgment call with this. Well, affection. I am fairly new to this whole torture thing, Keiko admitted. Her dainty shoulders shrugged like she was talking about an art class she attended. Maybe we could try something else. What do you think complete isolation would do to a human? I know what it can do to werewolves, so I'm almost afraid to wonder. Christ, I could almost feel those invisible mice crawling over me again. I could not be left alone with just my mind again. Not again, and not for longer. I felt my mouth drop open. I wondered if I was going to beg them to spare me. It was then that the door opened again. This time, I didn't have to flinch away from the blinding light. But what I saw made me believe that I had entirely succumbed to wolf drain. It couldn't be true. My eyes must be deceiving me. Dark hair, broad shoulders, silver eyes. Chapter 24. I was on the verge of screaming at him. Get out, run. Don't try to save me. I'm already too far gone. Just save yourself. Because the only reason he could be here was to rescue me. My mind convinced me that he had somehow followed me here, thinking I was acting strangely and had witnessed me getting kidnapped. Oh, Alan, Keiko said, waving at him, waving him into the shed like she knew him. Like he was just some human with a hero complex. But she didn't know his name. For a second, I wondered if I had confused myself, if my mind was too muddled to know who was standing right in front of me. My eyes darted back to Ryder, back to the man I had kissed so roughly in my own home, the man who had taken me to Snugglekin's. I knew him. I knew the sound of his laugh and the feel of his hands. It was him. It had to be. And I watched him take in my state. He ran his eyes over me, a brief second of recognition filling his features before it vanished into nothing. It was just gone. Then there was vacancy. No lip curled in disgust. No narrowed eyes. No concern. No panic. Just completely blank. Not the face of a hero who had come to serve justice. Ajax called me in. He said that you caught one of them, Ryder said. And hearing his voice was just another confirmation. Another punch to the gut that it was in fact him. I didn't know him for long, but I felt like I could pick his voice out of a million. Like a rabbit in a snare, Keiko said, grinning. Her dainty hand with a fat dime and ring gestured to me. I would like to introduce you one of the werewolf hunters that has been terrorizing us. She just happened to shoot Ajax with one of her arrows. So now she's enemy number 1. Keiko then turned to me, the grin remaining glued to her features. What a special treat for you. You see, Ryder Allen is the man we have to go after scum like you. He has been studying your little werewolf hunter gang for as long as you have been around. He'll know just how to make you crack. Look at her. Look at her. Noah piped up. She looks like she's going to piss herself already. Noah might have been right, I believed what was before me. But it was also impossible. Ryder was human. He had to be. I would know. I was sure how. But I had been training for years. There's no way one could be hiding right under my nose. In my own home. And he would know nothing about werewolves because so few humans did. This was just a game. My mind was cracking. It could have been the wolf drain. The dehydration. The hunger. The lack of sleep. Of a combination of all of them. It didn't matter. This was true. Ryder was not here. It was just some man I was letting my mind get the better of me. I lowered my gaze to the floor and took 3 breaths in an effort to steady myself. Are you sure she's a werewolf hunter? His voice swirled in my head and I jammed my eyes shut. This was happening. Well, a witch, well. She was the one running away through our lands in the dead of night with a silver knife in her hand right after my mate had been shot with a silver arrow. I would say all signs point to her, Keiko stated. And if she was the one who shot him, she's going to know who did. Obviously she was ready to kill. One way or another. I just kept my gaze on the floor and focused on what I could control my breathing. In and out. In and out. This nightmare would end eventually. I just had to get over this hurdle. That's all this was. A blip. A twist of the mind that would pass. My suffering would end soon enough. Was there anyone else in the woods? It seems odd that this would be a solo attack. I don't want to put all of the blame on a single person, or maybe even the wrong person. If there are others. There it was. There was the proof that my mind was slipping. Ryder's voice was never that flat. It always buzzed with enthusiasm, wonder, dissection, humor. It was never so monotone. No one else was found. After we dragged her back, I sent out 3 teams to search the area. Not even another scent trail was found. I don't doubt that Shess working with others, but she was definitely the only one on our lands at the time. Coco confirmed. There was a moment of silence, and in the dead quiet of that shed, I felt like the ringing in my ears was becoming violent. I had to do something. Anything. Step. Step. Swing. I fell right back into my night habit without giving it a second thought. How long have you had her like this? Ryder asked. I kept moving. Didn't even flinch at the sounds invading my mind. Lies. All of it was lies. A while. Close to 20 for hours at this point. Keiko admitted. When was the last time she had anything to drink? Something to eat? He pressed. It was still so flat. I raised my head, no longer wanting to stare at the old hiking books that were making me feet ache. The mercury eyes that had watched me coo over a tiny orange kitten were studying me now. There was not an ounce of emotion in them, though. And the second our gazes met, he glanced away, only having focus for Keiko. Whenever she gave herself water or food last, she hasn't had anything while Shess been an hour. Care? The queen was picking at her manicure, but there was a firm grimace on her mouth. How long has she been like this? Pacing. She shrugged. Hard to say, and thinking that it started sometime during the night. She had a lot more fight in her yesterday than she does now. Maybe we pushed her too far. We might not be able to get sound answers from her anymore. That's my fault. She shot my mate with a silver arrow. And Clementine was outside. She could have. I understand, Ryder said. Maybe we should have waited for you. But my emotions got the best of me. I just wanted to make her suffer. But now, you do what you think is best. Ryder approached me. I sized up this image that my mind had created and almost marveled at how inconsistent my imagination was to reality. Ryder was not stoic. He wouldn't be able to look at me in this state without flinching. His mouth wouldn't be in a firm line as he untied my wrists from behind my back. But there were some things that my brain did get right. His scent or the way my skin tingled every time we touched. Are you sure that's a good idea? Keiko asked. I don't even know if her legs would carry her out of this shed. To be honest. His touches on my flesh were brief, and doing the knots with efficiency. If we want anything out of her, we need to get her head on straight. Once the brain starts to slip, it's hard to tell fact from fiction. Was it ever? My arms fell limply by my sides as soon as the rope was released. The feeling of having them in a normal position was heavenly, blood rushing through my veins in excitement. But as if to prove his point, my legs gave out. The exhaustion caught up to me, no longer being held at bay by searing pain or consequences. I fell right against Ryder, feeling an arm curl around my waist to support me. My hands flopped forward without a pinch of grace onto his chest. Warmth flooded my body, as if it had already forgotten what had happened to it. Who did this? Ryder rumbled, his voice low. When I was able to hoist my head upward, I saw his gaze locked onto my fingers and the bloody stumps where my nails had been. I did, Noah stated. I was released from Ryder's grip, my body swaying weakly, and Ryder was lunging at Noah. Chapter 25. For how prepared Noah was to take me on. He was not prepared for Ryder. He came at him like lightning striking. Ryder grabbed Noah just under the ribs and threw him down to the musty floor of the shed with a fleshy thump, making Keiko shriek and jump out of the way. The two of them were brawling while I was sinking to the floor ever so gently, my head pounding and my body aching. It was hard to process what I was seeing. My eyes were blurry. My brain was murky. Someone threw a punch. Someone else blocked. Ryder was on top for a couple seconds. Then Noah wrestled him to the ground. There was shouting coming from both Keiko and Noah, but it was Ryder that was silent. Teeth gritted and hands clenched in fist. His entire focus was Noah, even when King Ajax burst into the small shed, taking the last of the space as he entered. "What the hell is going on?" the king snapped. Neither of the two seemed to even notice he had entered, but Keiko just sighed. "I don't know what it is with your species, but there is always a need for fighting. I figured the two of them would get whatever it is out of their system." Ryder just snapped when Noah admitted to pulling her fingernails out. Which is stupid. If HE is going to be mad at anyone for that, it should be me. I was the one who ordered it. Ryder's head snapped up at this, but brief pause gave Noah a chance to land a solid punch just along Ryder's jaw, sending him sprawling. Noah took the second to dart out of reach, but Ryder now only had eyes for the queen. "You ordered it," he demanded, blood gleaming on his teeth. "Of course. I did. Who else would have?" Keiko barked. "Now if you two are done, we can carry on." But Ryder was done. At the confession, he staggered to his feet, the blow to his head obviously disorienting him. It was enough though. It was slower and more sluggish than I anticipated. But he was going for the queen next. I knew the real Ryder wouldn't put his hands on her, but I was terrified of what this Ryder might do. An arm was extended out, connecting with Ryder's collarbone and jerking him backwards before he could get within reach of the queen. And the looming presence that was Ajax was now between him and Keiko. Taller than Ryder by at least 2 inches and more muscular, the king leaned over him, keeping a hand on his shoulder and gripping hard as he steered Ryder away from his mate. "What the fuck are you thinking?" She ripped out her fucking nails and tied her up like some kind of animal, craning to get around Ajax. The king held firm. "What does it matter? That girl shot at me, could have killed my daughter, and has probably slaughtered dozens of us. At this point, I feel like we've treated her too kindly. I understand that this might not be your style, but the hunters have gone too far. What are a few fingernails after everything they've done to us? It's just fucking barbaric," Ryder muttered, scraping a hand through his hair. Was he shaking or was it just my mind? A better question, was any of this real at all? "If you have an issue with it, you can take it up with me," Ajax stated, releasing Ryder and folding his thick arms over his chest. "If you think for a second, I'm going to let you put a hand on my wife. Your queen. You're out of your mind." Ryder let out a hissing breath, turning away from the trio as Noah collected himself, brushing dust off his shirt and pants. I watched the whole interaction from the floor, feeling like I might vomit or pass out or scream at any given moment. I tried my best to think of my parents then, to think of my real life. If this was Wolf Drain, maybe I could pull myself back into the present by focusing on it. Maybe I could escape this nightmare if I was just able to identify it for what it was. I jammed my eyes shut for extra measure, but when I opened them again, I was still in that god-forsaken shed with all 4 of them. "I'm sorry that I took things into my own hands," Keiko said, bringing my focus back to her. Even surrounded by all these hulking men that had just been fighting, she was not overshadowed. "I understand that this might not be the way that you do things, and because of my impulsive choices, I might have damaged our chances with this one." She glanced at me out of the corner of her eye. She must have seen a fragile creature, teetering on the edge, because she quickly glanced away. "I also know that this is personal for you, so do what you have to do." "Are you sure that she was the one?" "You are absolutely certain. She was the only one in the woods. And she was running with silver in her hand and has pretty much confessed to it." "I don't know what other proof you need," Keiko explained. "What is going on with you?" Ajax demanded. "I've never seen you like this. You attack Noah and now this. You are not the same man that dealt with all those other hunters." Ryder said nothing, and the mask, that was unlike his normal self, fell back on. Not a glimmer of emotion. Ajax took the silence as all the answer he needed. When he turned to face me, I was sitting right where they had left me, barely even able to engage my core enough to stay seated. "Fuck it. Let's just get rid of her and be grateful that nothing really came out of it. Well, raise security, and the next time one comes onto our land, we'll wait for you." Then Ajax drew a knife and stepped towards me. "No, Ajax. I swear to God, I will kill you." The king froze. I stared at the shining blade of the knife. It was small, but it didn't have to be particularly long to kill me. Just a few inches, really. Anything that could reach that tender heart of mine. Don't tell me you've turned into a sympathizer. Then it'll have to kill you and her. Ajax? She's my mate. If you lay a hand on her, you're going to have to kill me too, because I won't be able to control myself. Chapter 26. There was a moment of stunned silence. Keiko West's mouth flopped open. Ajax became very still. Noah looked like he wanted to melt into the background. The only sound I could hear was my own breathing. Then Keiko finally said, "Tell me that you're lying to me. Please." Her voice didn't sound the same it had before. Ryder shook his head slowly. I felt my body drifting closer to the floor, my core no longer able to support my chest. I sprawled out on my side. In the back of my mind, I wished that I was well. I wished that I was strong enough to leap to my feet and grab the knife from Ajax while he was distracted. I would turn the tides then, make them all fear me and finish what I had started. But I couldn't. Ryder glanced over at the heap that was my body. Still nothing. Not even a glimmer of the man I knew. I was giving up on the idea that this was fake, real, or a figment of my imagination. I had to work through it one way or another. I think the realization came far too late, though. How was I supposed to fight through anything at all in this state? Fucking Christ. Ajax snarled. "I know," Ryder said. "I'm not particularly thrilled about it either. You know that we can't just let her go. She's done far too much damage and she's a key to more. To be honest, I don't think I want her to be released." Keiko let out a groan, rubbing her face with her hands. "How does this happen? Why does the moon goddess hate us so much?" she demanded. "What are we even supposed to do to get through this at this point? We can't do anything to her because you'll kill us. If we let her go, she'll keep on murdering and we'll have far too much information." Silence fell once more, and with no words to provide distraction, I was suddenly very aware of the sharp pains raining down on my body. The pounding in my head was not nearly as dull as I thought. My stomach felt like it was twisting over itself, knotted and pulled tight. All of my muscles, depleted of water, seemed to be cramping to their smallest size. A protest. I groaned, curling my weak legs towards my chest. Honestly, a slit throat at this point would be the most humane way to deal with it. Ajax reasoned. "No," Ryder stated. "Well, the hell of it. Then what do you suggest, because I don't feel like we have a bounty of options at this point." I could hear my heartbeat in my head for the 4 pulses of silence that passed. "Hades," Ryder said. The response was instant. "No, absolutely not," Keiko gasped. "It's the only sound option," Ryder continued, like he hadn't heard either of them. "Listen, we all know that we can't just let her go. The damage that has been done is unforgivable, and the community would be in a fit of rage if they knew that we just let her go. Hell, I won't let you release her at this point. But I know what will happen if someone puts their hands on her. If Hades is able to see anything at all, then maybe he can decide if she can be released. And if not," Keiko prompted softly, "then at least when I try to defend her. We all know that Hades will walk out of there alive. It's barbaric," Keiko whispered, "but it will work, and neither you nor I will be held accountable for what Hades decides." Ajax reasoned. "This is ultimately a situation where both sides cannot win. You two can't seriously be considering this," Keiko protested. "We are offering her a quick and just death, and we are keeping ourselves safe from the frightening side of the mate bond." The king continued. "Do you have any other ideas?" She deflated no. "Then we are going to put them together in a holding cell off the property, get some food and water into them, and call Hades to do what he does best. If we come up with a better solution in that time, then we can implement it." But we can't keep her teetering on the edge of death. But what about Ryder? This is a tricky situation. Keiko, we can only do the best we can. For a moment, when my dizzy little head looked at Ajax, I didn't see this intimidating man or brawn and confidence. I saw a face that didn't have a single wrinkle yet, flaming hair that had yet to even have a strand of gray, and I saw a young man who looked very much like he never wanted to be king at all. Chapter 27. My fate was being delayed. I didn't entirely understand why, but I also didn't think I had the capacity to ask. To be fair, I could barely understand the words being spoke around me. I saw Ryder move, like he was coming towards me, but when he froze, it was Ajax that stepped forward. My body felt like a bag of bones and blood in his arms as I was scooped up. The shed that I had come to hate was left behind, and I was brought outside. The sun was still high in the sky, but my sense of direction was skewed. Was it sunrise or sunset? How was I even able to tell? A furious, rumbling snarl made me jerk my head around in his arms. A gray wolf was barreling towards us, teeth bared, ears back against its head. So this was where I was going to die, for all Keiko's talk and the mention of someone called Hades. This seemed quite reasonable, really. I waited to Ajax to dump me on the grass so the beast would have better access to finish me off. Keiko just raised a dainty hand and the wolf skidded to a hard stop. With a flick of the wrist, she sent it along in another direction. Thought it made its displeasure known by growling the entire time. No one else disturbed us on our way to the house. Molly, a child, shrieked as soon as the door was opened. Her voice was so shrill, it felt like it was going to split my skull. And there was the little girl that I could not kill. Her dark hair pulled back in smooth braids. Her eyes so wide on her little face. She faltered when she saw me in her father's arms. Mommy, Mommy's coming. My little orange, Ajax assured. Who is that? Clementine asked. We're just attending to some things. Why don't you go upstairs? The little girl refused to move until Keiko stumbled into the home and saw her daughter. It was swift work to get the most vulnerable family member away from me. The two walked upstairs hand in hand as I was plunked down on a bar stool that thankfully had a strong back I could slump against. Small amounts of water, Ryder commanded. We don't know where her body is at right now. If we get some fluids in her and we can make sure she keeps them down, then we can work on getting her clean. Then maybe some food in her. It came out of him so methodically. A list that he had recited before. Who had he been trying to save then? I doubted another werewolf hunter would be offered these luxuries. Ajax kept his eyes trained on me while Ryder got to work in the kitchen, a homey and rustic space. A glass was placed in front of me with a laughable amount of water. I guzzled it down immediately. It didn't feel like it helped much. Instead, it was a reminder to my body about what it had been missing. I felt like I could slam water until my belly ached and I felt physically ill. But Ryder did not refill it right away. His gaze was on me, steady and hard. How are you doing? Ajax carefully. I wish I never fucking came here, Ryder ground out. I wish I could tell you it was going to be okay. I know there's a good chance we are both going to be dead within the next couple of days. It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah, Shess your mate. But we would never hold what she has done against you, obviously. Just say the word and we can end it all right now. Would you ever even consider letting Keiko go? Even back then when you first met her. No, the mate bond is a strong thing. Too fucking strong. Ryder sighed. I seemed to have passed whatever test he laid out for me because I was given the glass back. With a little more water this time. I drank it just as greedy. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't even close to enough. But it felt like my body was restarting. The gears that had ceased began to grind again. I was in the Royals' home. I should have been trying to hold on to everything, anything. Were there car keys around me? Could I make it out of here? Could I report something back to Armand and Dawn? It didn't matter. I still felt every bit of weakness that I had felt before. Even swiveling my head was too much work. Do you have any electrolytes? Yeah, but I've never used them for anything beyond nursing a hangover. Ajax rummaged around in an overhead cabinet before tossing a small container at Ryder. I vaguely wondered if I would have chugged the murky pink liquid so eagerly if I hadn't watched them mix it. But with the way my organs were groaning, I knew I would have. I cowled and even identify what it tasted like. I just cared that it hit my stomach. By the time I finished, Ryder had his back to me and was digging around in the pantry. I scrambled to try to take in any information that might be valuable. There was a knife block. Knives could be good, or they could be bad. Very bad. I couldn't see any car keys. No maps with definitive markings on them. No charts or family trees, because it was just a home. Leather couches were broken up by a bright pink princess tent. The television was left on, the sound too quiet to be heard fully. An empty glass sat on a side table. Speaking of a nightly beverage or maybe a glass of water first thing in the morning. Here, eat these. Placing a cup of applesauce and some cucumber slices in front of me, I gobbled them down without a second thought. Well, let Keiko handle the next couple parts, Ajax said softly, putting a comforting hand on Ryder's arm after he put a full cup of water before me. I can handle it. You don't have to. When the Queen of Werewolves made it back downstairs, I could tell I was the last person she wanted to deal with. She better be able to walk, because I'm not carrying her. She spat. Something about her tone made me slide off the chair onto my wobbly legs. I'm fine. I was very much not. She eyed me for a moment. Let's get you cleaned up and changed then. We left the men behind and ascended the stairs that she and Clementine had disappeared up before. There were a hulking mass of wood, some stairs with live edges, others smooth and refined. I used the little knobs in the wood to hoist my upper body along the railing to give my leg. It was a mess, but I did it. When we made it to the top, there was a short hallway with 3 doors. A pink foam crown was hanging off one. It seemed odd, like a suburban family with a spoiled daughter. Not something a real princess would have. Keiko noticed me looking, her entire body tight. I didn't need to know her personally to know that a mother's protective streak made her want to choke me right then and there. I could never do it, I finally admitted. My voice was hoarse and my throat dry. I practiced so hard. I felt like a failure. They told me I needed to kill all of you. But every time I looked at that target and thought about little girl, I felt sick. When I heard her voice, my arrow got loose. That's why Ajax is still alive. Keiko studied me hard then. Her lips were pressed into a firm line for a long time. Well, at least you're not a complete monster. Now let's get you showered up. If you survive Hades, we don't want you dying from an infection. Chapter 28. The woman who threatened to kill me repeatedly, the one who ordered my fingernails be ripped out, was the one who bandaged my hands after I came out of the shower. She was also the one who stood guard by the door, making sure I didn't try to escape, and the one who offered me fresh, clean clothes. She eyed me when I came out of the bathroom wearing what I could only assume were her clothes. They're really baggy on me, but they fit you well, she remarked. Compared to me, you're absolutely shredded. That was an understatement. While she sat pretty on a throne and ordered Noah about, I lurked in the darkest corners of the forest with my bow drawn. In my world, being out of shape could be a death sentence, but I still said nothing, just stared at the fingers that she had wrapped for me. The silence carried on when we returned back to the main floor where Ajax was still with Ryder. I tried to meet Ryder's gaze, but he kept his eyes trained out the window above the kitchen sink, staring at the quiet forest that surrounded the cabin, probably wishing he was anywhere but here. I couldn't help but feel the same. Ajax noticed this his tense shoulders too. I know that this is hard for you. I can't even imagine what you're going through, but the offer still stands. You say the word and I will be happy to make this all just. Go away. No one would have to know. It could just stay between the 4 of us. Ryder's jaw flexed. Where is Hades? I just saw him in town a few days ago. He got called away. We don't decide when issues come up that he has to deal with. Ajax explained. He'll be back soon. 3 days maximum, but probably sooner. He doesn't know exactly what is going on. but I told him it's urgent. Hades decides. I stay with her until then. Ryder, honey, you don't mean to do that to yourself. Keiko piped up. We can put her in a cell and have a guard with her at all times. There's zero reason for you to be involved more than you need to. The reason I need to be there with her is the fact that Shess my mate. I know that it had been said before, and I know there had been grand reactions to the whole thing, but then my head hadn't been on just right. With an empty stomach and no water in my system, I had other priorities. Now I was able to process what was happening before me. Now I could think about things other than the ache of my shoulders or the throbbing in my fingers or the exhaustion in my legs, and I burst out in laughter. All three heads turned towards me. I don't know a lot about werewolves, but I know that there is no way that you are anything to me. I spat. Ryder's eyes narrowed, and I realized that this was the first time we had actually spoken words directed at each other. We're mates. Georgia, you can throw a fit if you like, but that's the reality. Why else would I keep going to that coffee shop? Why would I try and take you on dates? Werewolves don't date. It's a waste of time when you have someone that you're destined to be with waiting for you. Wait, this is the girl you were asking for dating advice about. Keiko sputtered yes. Fuck. Ryder, I thought I was just helping you get laid. I didn't think I was setting you up with a werewolf killer. The queen gasped. Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting myself into either. I held up my hands, a twisted grin on my features. You're so full of shit. Am a human being. I don't care what you are, but we are not the same. Therefore, I cannot be anything to you and you are nothing to me. Human to werewolf matings are considered uncommon, but aren't exactly rare or anything. They're complicated, but not unheard of. Ajax explained. Why do you think it felt so natural to be together? Ryder asked just as I opened my mouth to protest. Why do you think you felt so drawn to me all the time? Why did you invite me to your house when you clearly never have anyone over? Why did you tell me your name when you try so hard to keep it a secret? Because I thought we were dating. I sputtered. Right. He rolled his eyes. Trust me, Georgia, if we weren't mates, you would have been dead a long time ago. If I had known you were a werewolf, I would have gutted you the first second I saw you. Mate or not. I shot back. Really? An eyebrow quirked, but there was no fear swirling in his eyes. There's a knife block right here. He gestured to set I had seen previously, the one I had dismissed. If you think you can do it, why don't you try right now? Oh, Jesus Christ. Ajax hissed, but no one physically interjected. I willed myself to go over to the knife block and grab one of the black handles. I was dead anyway. Right. This Hades was going to reveal himself and slaughter me. I was already done for. It was just a waiting game at this point, one that I could speed along if I so decided. And didn't I want to? The rage brewing in my belly told me that I could do it, but every time I glanced from the knives to Ryder, I felt ill. I couldn't even bring myself to move closer to him. The thought of plunging my knife into his chest. Right? Now that we got that out of the way, I think we should get you guys set up in the cell. Then, whatever you two need to do to each other, you can. Ajax blurted. Keiko, who had been rummaging in the kitchen drawers, now came beside me. Her movements were quick as she wrapped on wrist in a thin nylon rope. The second I registered what she was doing, I rolled my eyes and offered her my other hand. Maybe I could have caused more of a fuss, but I knew there was no way I was winning a battle of 3 against 1. It was decided that Keiko would be remaining here with Clementine while Ajax escorted us to the cells. Whatever and wherever, though, Ryder no longer seemed so chatty. No one spoke a single syllable as we made outside the cabin again. Ajax approached a massive SUV, swinging a back door open. I stalled on the porch. Get in, Ajax said, losing a pinch of sweetness that I was noticed he had around his mate. In not looking to do a leisurely stroll right now. The sooner I get rid of you, the sooner I can come home to my daughter. Ryder didn't even glance at me. He climbed into the behemoth without a second thought. When Ajax narrowed his eyes at me, I took in his hulking form. It wouldn't take much effort for him to toss me over his shoulder. I could scream and thrash, but a man of that size and of that strength probably wouldn't even notice. I ticked my chin up, stomped up to the vehicle, trying to not flinch when Ajax gripped my arm to help me onto the back seat. Once I realized how far the destination was from the main cabin, I was stunned by how much land the royals had under their territory, though it wasn't clear if they actually owned it or just guarded it. About 15 kilometers down a windy and dusty gravel road, we pulled into a short driveway and there was a small, locked-in building. There was no delay getting us inside. From the outside it was nothing more than a dumpy-out building you would find in a farmer's field. From the inside, it was a simple space with just separate rooms. One was something of an office. I assumed it was where a guard would be stationed now that there were actual prisoners in here. The other room, the cell as everyone seemed to call it. I don't know where I thought the werewolves would shove me. Maybe somewhere dark and wet with mice and crows and an awful aroma in the air. It was certainly no 5-star hotel. But there was a single bed, uncomfortable looking and small, but a bed nonetheless. A simple sink in the corner and a door that I assumed led to toilet. Ryder plowed into the tiny space and didn't look back. I hesitated outside the doorway. I knew it was better than being strung up in a shed. Ajax's massive hand shoved against my back, forcing me in. The door was slammed shut behind me. A heavy lock slid into place. "I'll be back in a while with food for you two. Try not to kill each other," Ajax shouted. I turned around, hands still bound, to see Ryder, my supposed mate, sitting on the only bed. "Get comfortable, George. It's going to be a long night." Chapter 29. My very first reaction was to fight. "I'm exhausted. I need the bed," I said. Ryder didn't even blink. His shoulders were slumped forward, his head craned down, looking at his hands clasped in his lap. "I'm not moving," he stated. "I was just strung up in a fucking shed for hours. My entire body is on the verge of breaking down. Get off the bed so I can lay down," I ordered. "You wouldn't be in that position if you didn't go around killing innocent people, which I feel is setting the bar pretty low." "Werewolves," I corrected instantly. "I don't kill people. I kill werewolves." As if it's any different. "You're breaking apart mates, tearing families and packs down. Each death is a mark on the entire community. It's still a life. Barely." Ryder met my eyes for a brief moment. Then he slumped once more. It was like he didn't have the energy to even acknowledge me anymore, which was fine by me. It was like there were 1,000 things I wanted to talk about either. I certainly had a million questions roving in my mind, but they all seemed so small now. Was any of it really important if my days were numbered anyway? I tossed one last glare at Ryder, which he either blatantly ignored, didn't see, then climbed around him to get on the bed. It was lumpy and a little too stiff beneath my knees, but after what I had endured, it would do. Hell, it seemed like a luxury, even with the rough sheets under my palms. "What are you doing?" Ryder asked, like I was a skunk trying to snuggle him. I rolled my eyes. "I'm tired. I'm going to try and get some sleep whether you decide to give me space or not." If he argued with me after that, I didn't hear it. My body registered the feel of a pillow beneath my head, and for a while. Not a dream, not a nightmare, not a glimpse of reality. It all fell away as I sucked in deep breaths, my chest rumbling with rough snores. I don't know how long I was out. It felt like only minutes, but it could have been hours. When my eyes parted, my mouth was dry and the ache in my muscles that I could ignore before was at the forefront, and the damn throbbing in my fingertips. It felt like a permanent fixture in my life. And then, I felt something brush against my forehead. I jerked upright immediately. The man who had been ignoring me very pointedly before I had fallen into my slumber was now watching me intently. He was no longer perched on the edge of the bed, but sitting on it with his legs splayed before him, looking almost childish in the moment. There was something sincere then, something soft in his features. I let the furious beast within me coming out with bared teeth anyway. "Don't touch me," I barked. You're just a ray of sunshine, aren't you? I don't not know if you're aware of this, but your queen pulled my fucking fingernails out. I'm not feeling inclined to pull out the customer service smile for you anymore. I snapped, thrusting my rat fingers beneath his nose. She might have done it because you shot at her mate, he pointed out. Listen, I didn't ask you to come and be involved in any of this. You are the one who insisted on being in here with me. You're the one who called for Hades. Whoever that is, if you're going to act like I'm repulsive, then you are absolutely welcome to his Ajax to release you the next time he comes around, I said. That made a bitter laugh pour out of Ryder. It was so strange to look at him now and think of how he howled in frustration on the couch beside me when I repeatedly beat him at the racing game. Where had that man gone? George, if I could leave you behind, I would. Don't give me some stupid pet name, I snapped. Why? Because it reminds you of our time together. It makes you think about how you kissed me and were grinding on my lap. He shot back. Because it makes you feel like we're a couple. Jesus. Just get away from me, I ordered. It was supposed to be a show for force and rage, but when I heaved my body to my feet, I quickly became aware that a little rest, some water, and a light snack was not going to undo what had been done to me. I wobbled sickly. He caught my elbow in the palm of his large hand. I felt my lips curl back at the touch. You say awful things. You aren't even the same person I thought I knew. But you can't leave me alone. Because we're mates. George. I jerked myself out of his hold, but knew better than to trust my body at this point. As soon as I was out of his grasp, I kept my chin high but sank against an opposing wall. If I looked as weak or as unbalanced as I felt, Ryder decided not to say anything about it. We can't be anything. You are what I kill, I said flatly. Unfortunately, I don't think the moon goddess cares. He sighed. The moon goddess, I repeated. The deity that ties mates together. There's been thousands of moon goddesses since the beginning of time. The Egyptians had Isis. The Romans with Luna. Along with controlling the moon, she is also entrusted to other things, like getting us mates. People we are destined to be with. We have evolved beyond needing the moon to shift into our werewolf forms, but she is still the one who gives us balance through mating when things take too long. It's suspected that she's responsible for causing eats as well. I blinked once, studying him. It was absurd. Every word that came out of his mouth. You don't really believe that, do you? What else am I supposed to believe? I guess. The workings behind it don't really matter. But there is no denying that mates exist. Where's your proof? I demanded. The fact that we are both alive. You might not believe it, but I'm the one who deals with hunters like you. After what was done to my family, I was more than happy to give up my life in favor of hunting the hunters. And as much as I hate to admit it, if you got onto the Royals' lands and you got close enough to even get a shot at Ajax, you might be pretty successful too. Very successful, I corrected. It was all just a very unfortunate string of events. Clearly, talking about murdering his king was not a conversation of choice for Ryder. I watched the way his jaw worked and how his eyes seemed to storm at the thought of the king dropping dead, with an arrow protruding from his chest. Why did you start hunting us? His voice barely above a whisper. A genuine question. I need to know. For the same reason you come after me. My family was taken from me. I won't get them back, but I will make you all pay. Chapter 30. Ryder was kind enough to untie me at some point. I fell in and out of sleep often. I didn't discriminate between spots. I snored while leaning against a wall or dreamed on top of the bed. Exhaustion was a beast that didn't always care about comfort, and I was grateful for that while it lasted. But sleeping could only pass the time for so long. Eventually, I felt too rested to ignore my reality much longer. I was sitting with my back to the wall, my usual spot for the time being, as Ryder refused to give up his claim on the bed, and fiddling with a now empty paper cup, glaring at the man who hadn't seemed to move since we got here. Are you just going to stare at me until Hades gets here or what? Ryder confronted. I mean, all either of us can really do here is drink water and sleep. I shot back, throwing my damp paper cup at him. He didn't even blink as it bounced off his knee. It was interesting how I could recall him constantly needing to move before. But now, here, it looked like just existing took effort. It caused something sour to boil within me. I can't believe you're the same person from the coffee shop. I hissed through clenched teeth. It was a lie. All of it was a fucking lie. And I had fallen for it. Blinded by my need to be wanted. Like I was some goddamn damsel. Right? You're a dream too. You don't even like kittens. For fuck's sake. I'm a werewolf. Georgia. Why would I need a pet when I'm pretty much an oversized dog half the time? Christ. It was a blow. Though I hadn't thought about it. Not really. I knew that we were fighting for opposite sides. I knew that the only reason I was dead was because some ancient deity had declared that we were bonded somehow. But I hadn't really thought of him as anything other than a man. Now I considered what he would look like with the same midnight color of his hair as a fur coating his whole body and a snout instead of a mouth. I didn't know if it was something gruesome that made my stomach churn or if it was downright comical at this point. So I burst out laughing. It was madness. All of it. I was trapped in a cell with a man I now hated. But days ago, he had been my solace. I was a werewolf hunter and had been on the verge of falling in love with the very animal I was supposed to slaughter. And now, given the chance to kill him, I couldn't force myself to raise a blade, to even grab a knife. Hell, I could pretty much picture him as a massive black wolf chasing as a little orange kitten. What's so funny? I didn't even care that he must have thought I was losing it. Just all of this. It's such a goddamn mess. If 16-year-old me could see me now, she would probably just lay down and die. Not exactly the life plan you had for yourself. He taunted. My life back then was very different from what it is now. I confessed, losing a pinch of the hysteria. But it was only replaced by blotches of sadness. I can understand that. I never thought I would be here. Like trapped in a room with a werewolf hunter. I guess that too. He mumbled. But more than that, I had a normal job before this. One where I was running around cleaning out messes that you and your group left. Back then, I was trying to look widows in the eye when they sobbed or trying to explain to little kids why their mom was coming home. I let the jab slide, because he was offering something more useful than insults and barbs. He was offering a distraction, and maybe a part of me, a small part, found it comforting to hear his voice. No matter what he was or the topic he was explaining. What did you used to do? I just got signed on with the bike company Ravine. It felt like my dream job. I got to be in nature on a bike all the time, and I got to use my design engineering education. I traveled a lot, which is a little unusual for us. But it was amazing. I was barely 3 months in when it happened, when my family was killed. I don't think I really had a clue with what I was going to do. I admitted. I knew what was expected of me. Both of my parents were pretty successful. I was considering doing dermatology like my mom, or maybe following my dad. College was just kind of an expectation in my family, but I don't really think I had a clue of what I was getting myself into. All of the things that I thought mattered back then now seems really insignificant. Like what? I snorted. Everything. All those classes that didn't tell me how to place my parents in a home. Those friends that I thought were going to be beside me forever gave up on me as soon as things got hard. It felt like I just had to cancel twice for them to decide I was worth a phone call. I sold the car that I worked so hard to get, taking my dad's Subaru instead. There was a weight silence and I started to realize what I had said and to who. Your parents are still alive. Then, for once, it was a snide question or a thorny response. His voice sounded closer to what I knew from before. There was a pinch of softness to it. It depends on what you consider alive. I reasoned, though I tried to stop it. The vile things I kept hidden even from myself came out in Edie after. Sometimes I think that if they were family pets, we would have put them out of their misery by now. I think of what my mom would say if she could see herself. Really see what she had become. I think she would want to be taken out of the world peacefully. My dad too. Always so sharp and so smart. Now he gets wheeled in front of a television where his day is spent in front of infomercials. I think that they would both feel like a burden, and they clearly aren't enjoying their lives. Some days, I'm not sure they even know they are alive. And werewolves did that. You're sure of it. To my parents and countless other people. Nothing was said for a while after that. Ryder gave up on his seated position and opted for lying down on the bed. I thought he would try and coax himself into sleep, but every time I walked by him, his eyes were open, burning into the ceiling. I just kept my mouth shut and refilled my water cup a little too often. The movement kept me away from my thoughts. Now that Ryder was no longer offering himself up as a distraction, my mind was racing. This was how I was going to spend my last hours on Earth, and this was who I was going to spend them with. All I could think about was the things I hadn't done, the words I hadn't said. How many trips had I bailed on because something else seemed important, or just because I was tired? How different would my life have been if I made this choice instead of that one? Was anyone going to even notice if I was gone? Those few days ago, which seemed like forever now, I thought Ryder would be the one to panic over unopened text messages. But now, the kind nurses would continue to take care of my parents. My brother would probably be thankful I had given up on him. And life would go on. For everyone except me and Ryder. The heavy lock slid. I was on the feet just as Ryder was sitting up. The door swung open and there was Keiko with a tray balanced on one hand. I brought spaghetti, she announced awkwardly. I knew how she felt. All of the social norms now felt so wrong here, with nowhere else to put her offerings. She set them on the bed beside Ryder. Any news? He asked. Hades is on his way, she replied. Just please don't kill each other with the forks before he gets here. Okay. Neither of us said anything to that, and the queen left that cell as soon as she could. I could tell her short sentence was weighing heavily on Ryder. He picked at his food. I devoured mine, wishing that this would not be my last meal. I thought of the fine pastries in Paris, the seafood in Spain, but all I really wanted was the meat sauce on plain noodles that my dad always made too much of. Soon, none of it would matter. I would be left to the mercy of Hades. But suddenly, all I could focus on was the warmth pooling in my belly.